Zylberglait, and I am so excited about this conversation. We've already been chatted off camera about so many things, and I said we better go live because there is so much to cover. Dr. Miriam is doing an incredible job. She has extensive experience she's a triple board certified in internal medicine, geriatrics, and obesity medicine. And she's got a deep interest in the topics of well-being, burnout prevention, mental health, and preventative medicine and leadership. She's also the author of the 3G Cycle of Life, the secrets for achieving joy, meaning, and well-being. That's incredible. Thank you so much, Dr. Miriam, for being here with us. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, we were talking before this, and we have so many things in common, right? That is amazing that we are so far away and so close at the same time. So I'm super happy to be here.
Oh, so tell us a little bit about your journey into getting to doing the work that, specializing the work that you're doing right now.
Yeah, well, I want to share first of all that I am from Peru. I am a Latin girl, and I am proud to say that at some point of my life I moved to the US, and I had to adapt to this new country and new culture and a new way to practice medicine. And I saw the goods and the bads, right, of it. So all this background really helped me to collect the experience and I will say not only the knowledge, but also this grit and this interest for doing the things that I am doing right now, and is to focus on well-being, not only on the health, right, the physical health of people, but really on the mental and emotional health also, because since I went to medical school and I learned geriatrics, in geriatrics we always talk about comprehensive approach, holistic approach, meaning that we treat the heart, right, the emotional aspect, the mind, the body as a whole. And that's the type of medicine that I want to practice as a physician, no matter if you are 18 or you are 80. I believe that all of us, we need to be treated by our doctors or healthcare professionals as humans and individuals, and not on, there's not way more than doing it in this way that is holistic.
So do you think that, when you are focused on the geriatrics, there is more kind of a level of like looking at a patient holistically, as opposed to, like, let's say if you were to specialize in oncology or GP or gynecology, like you'll be more just kind of the physical side of it?
Yeah, I will say that in oncology, probably, and now we see this in palliative care, hospice, and ICU, that is the intensive care, right? I believe that we are seeing more and more of this holistic approach. It's very interesting, and obviously very necessary also, right, because of the type of conditions. Sadly, we don't see that abroad, right? And we don't see that in other type of specialties. We see the opposite. We see that we go to specialize in something and specialize in something extra, and we reduce, and suddenly you are a specialist in the finger, in the first finger, and you don't take care of anything else. And that has a positive aspect, right? Because we know much more, right? And detail something, but at the same time, we are separating again, right? The human in parts, and we are not puzzles. For us to see a patient, we need to have all the pieces together, right? If with one puzzle, you will not know what is happening or how to help the patient. And I feel that that's probably the mistake, right, of super specialized medicine, especially when you don't have a primary care or someone that is guiding all this, right? One thing is to send, but you have someone that is administrating all that information. That kind of reduce the the negatives. But when you don't have that person administrating all the information and all the care and everything is in parts,
Yeah.
it's a puzzle, a puzzle that has not been put together.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I actually speak about this on my book that I'm about to publish. Like the cancer cell is a cell that separates from the healthy cells, isn't it? And it becomes its own entity by using the health cells, blood vessels, and taking the the nutrients from that, because they can't live by themselves. But at some point, they're separated from the whole. And I feel that mentally and emotionally, I had separated myself from the world and from anybody around me, even though I was highly functioning as a human being. And, like I said, if a doctor could ask you questions around, how you're feeling emotionally or mentally, did anything happen in your life or something like that, you start shedding a little bit of a light on that, the place that you need to heal, right? But now the issue with that, and I've seen some of your posts talking about this, is that doctors have about 10 minutes, right, to treat each patient.
15.
Yeah. On a stretch,
a little more, sometimes a little less, but yeah, more or less. Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to try to satisfy two different entities, right? For me, my boss number one, if you want to call it like this, is my patient, really. And we forget that almost completely, right? But the truth is, a doctor or a health professional, a teacher, or any servant leader, any servant professional, we work for someone, right? And that someone in medicine is the patient. That's the person that we need to serve, the patient and the family. And we need to give our 300% for that person, right? But then we need to satisfy the other boss that is the one that pays us, right? And that puts the rules, and that in majority of the cases is not a physician and has a priority of running a business and not a charity. And I understand and I respect, right? I mean, we understand that we need that balance. We all need to pay our bills. But has been so extreme, right? We have been pushed to the extreme to a point that are you okay? Yeah, but we are in a camera, puppy.
But it didn't show me.
Okay, baby. I'm so sorry. This is real life for a doctor too, right? We have kids.
Exactly. I know. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Asma.
Hello. She's the lady that I was telling you, puppy.
Alfonso.
No, she's the lady of the bell.
What bell?
The bell.
That ring the bell?
Yes. Do you want to tell her that you are happy for her? Yes. Oh my gosh.
We were talking off. Yeah, that's so beautiful.
Thank you, puppy. Now go.
I'm cold.
Okay. So we will tell the story about the
we'll tell the story,
but yeah, so now you are trapped in between your moral values, your values as a physician, your obligation, right? Because there is a moral, but there's a legal obligation that we have with our patients, and what you have to do to satisfy the requirements of someone that, again, doesn't have necessarily the interest of helping patients, but has the interest to keep the business, being successful.
And I think on top of that, what I have seen working with clients in America, especially, is that you have the insurance companies, right? So doctors are trying to really do a job, not to serve the patient, but to protect themselves, because anybody can sue anybody for saying an I wrong, right? And I'm not saying that doctors don't make mistakes, but I'm saying that I think people are becoming extremely intolerant and unreasonable to anything that that is lightly not the way that they want. I mean, I used to go to a clinic here, and in Australia, it's not as bad as in America because we have a public system.
Mm-hmm.
And in the cancer clinic, I used to have to change my PICC line every week, not only in the week of chemo, but we were not a priority when you were not doing chemo, because when you're just changing your PICC line, they just needed to get the people doing the chemo first. And I would see and witness people being extremely rude to the nurses changing that PICC line. I've been waiting for 2 hours. And it used to get me so upset, because although I've read a lot about natural medicine and how you can holistically help yourself with, habits and lifestyle changes and different things, I really trust and believe that there is a place for the doctors and nurses doing the best they can each day. And I respect that, and I value that enormously.
I believe that there is a mix here of things, right? And what you're saying is so true. In the US, the percentage of doctors that will get at some point of their career in a legal situation, right, being sued or part of a suit is very high, and certain specialties more than others. And what you see a lot is sadly this friction between doctors and patients instead of being collaboration. Patients feel that doctors are not being necessarily respectful or patient-centered, right? That they are more in the computer, that they care more about the money and many things. And I will not say that that's not the case for some. Of course, that's the case for some. But I also want to say that probably the majority of us, we went to medical school to help others, and that people, they don't know what happened behind the scenes and what we are going through. So they know that they didn't receive the medication on time. They know that that the insurance didn't accept, but they don't know it's the fault of the insurance that they don't accept, not our fault, right? Or that there are not appointments because we don't have enough staff, because our CEOs, they don't want to use more money on hiring more staff, and that we are seeing the double of patients that we should be seeing in a safe way, right? And what they don't know either is that, at least in the US, and I know that this happens in other countries, Australia, England, as examples, but in the US, 65% of doctors are burnout, right? Which is a number that is, it's scary, because that means that you go to an emergency today, right? And you have 65% of chance of being evaluated, treated by a person, a doctor that is tired, exhausted, that is not motivated, got difficulty to concentrate, and that, by the way, is also practicing below average. So because that's the definition of burnout. So you are in the hands of someone that I don't know if that person should be practicing. And what is even more concerning is that we have 60% of depression also. So that could be or not part of the same group. 400 physicians die by suicide every year in the US, and these numbers are before COVID. So this could be even worse, right? So if people will have access to this information, if people will understand that we are struggling, and we are not struggling because our salaries are not good enough, we are not struggling because we work long hours. We have been doing this for decades, right? The big gap right now, and the big reason for us to be so stressed, so tired, and sick, if you want to call it like that, is the big gap between what we believe is good medicine and the medicine that we are allowed to practice. Because and our hands are tied. And it's sad because the first person that gets insulted, and now that my kid was here, right? My kid normally does this. He may appear one or the other. I was in a visit, in a virtual visit with a patient. I never saw him in my life. This is the first encounter that I have with this gentleman. And the first thing that he did is insulting me, but he went like he went ballistic, right? And he yelled at me. He used very bad words, was very explicit, and he was upset because a referral that someone else ordered for him was not approved by the insurance. Let me tell you, I agree with him. He had all the right to be upset. That referral was supposed to be approved. He deserved it. He needed it, right? Nothing that I can do about that because I don't manage the insurance. Do I feel like he did the right thing, insulted me? Of course not. But the sad part is that my kid came in and he heard all that. And he started crying. And he's like, Mommy, why someone is insulting you? You are a doctor. If you help people, why people insult you? And I didn't have an answer. But in retrospective, I can tell you that patients are suffering. Patients are being disappointed. Patients have been betrayed by the system. Why?
I agree. Yeah. But I have something to say about that, which is a little bit like the devil's advocate.
I go for it.
I've got something to say about that because I think previous to cancer, I was that person that would be very angry and reactive to, when things didn't go my way, like you call the telecommunications company and, they don't do what you want and you just start, shouting. After cancer, I really changed as a person because I realized that way was making me sick to start with. And secondly, I feel that one of the biggest issues I think that we are facing these days, when you talk about we can't practice the medicine that we believe in and on the medicine that we want to practice or believe that, we should be practicing is that patients and need to also start taking full responsibility of themselves.
Yes.
And I think that is an issue that nobody wants to hear because it's much easier to go to the doctor and get a prescription, right? Now, and I do think that that's a major problem. And I think that
we created it, right? So this is I agree with you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We as a system and we as doctors, we created that system where we were so paternalistic with patients, right? That we told them, you do what I say, you do, you are in my hands. And we remove the power from the patient, right? And in some way, what the intention was good, right? We were trying to help, but what you are saying is so true that we cross the line from I'm trying to help and let us to help you to I have nothing to do with this. It's my body, but it's not my problem, right? And we will have to change the mindset of the community, and this will not happen spontaneously, and this will not happen without education, and for all that you need time, and that's a time right now. My husband always say time is money, but for me time is opportunity. And we do not have the opportunity to educate the patients so they can be empowered.
And I feel that, just a simple act of treating others how you want to be treated, that in itself is help, right? Like, so the person that insulted you, of course, is full of anger, has got a self-regulation problem, an emotion dysfunction. There were so many issues with that. And because of that, this person feels that they have the right to treat you and probably anyone like that. And I think that's also a sad reality of many people. I mean, you see them fighting with strangers on social media, in comments and stuff like that. It's people that are hurt, that they want to hurt other people.
And we need to be compassionate, right? We need to be sensitive, and we need to be compassionate, and we need to understand in our role. One thing maybe when you are outside, of your role as a physician or health professional, right? But when you are in your role as a physician, you have to be compassionate. You need to understand that things are not personal, even of course are not comfortable. Now, nobody enjoys something like this, right? Uh, but this is a manifestation of someone suffering in some way and for some reason. That could be a manifestation of fear. And to be sincere, it breaks my heart that someone has to go to that point to claim his right to receive attention, good quality of attention. We should not be fighting, right, to get the pill that we need. We should not be spending, doctors should not spend an hour in the phone trying to convince someone else that probably is not a doctor that your patient needs A, no B, no C, no D, A. And patients, they don't know what happened, right, and why A was not given, but we were fighting for that. So you have a healthcare system that really, the behind the scenes is so awful.
Yeah.
But the only individual that is exposed in front of the patient is a doctor or the nurse or the counselor or whoever. But they really don't know what happens behind us. And what happens behind us is that we are almost prisoners of the system.
Yeah.
We cannot decide completely the medication that our patients need.
Yeah.
We cannot decide the tests that our patients need. The protocol says that you need an X-ray, and after the X-ray, the CT, and after the CT, the MRI. Yes, but I know that I will not see anything in the X-ray and the CT. I'd rather to get the MRI right now. Yes, but the protocol says that you have to have, but I know that it will be negative. Well, when it's negative, now you can order this. How many months did you waste on that
just
process?
trying to kind of go through that kind of treadmill of. So on that, so it's really interesting. I listened to Dr. 𝗙𝗦𝗧𝗂𝗧 talking about an experience he had with lots of health professionals with the shamans, I think in Peru, I think somewhere in South America. Yeah, ayahuasca. So it was something.
Yeah, ayahuasca. I never saw in real life. I never tried, but I know.
Yeah, I know. I've never either. And he was talking that the shamans were really surprised that all of the doctors and nurses and psychologists that were there, in actual fact, they removed Dr. 𝗙𝗦𝗧𝗂𝗧 from the ceremony, which was his ceremony, because they said to him, you're carrying so much negative energy and you haven't been grounding yourself, so you can't be here, because you're not only going to pass your negative energy to other other people, but you're also going to just take in all of their negative energy. So they removed him from his own event.
Wow.
And I think the shamans ask all the health professionals, how do you ground yourselves? Like, are you guys crazy? You are working with people all these years. Like, how do you ground yourselves? How are you guys? And when you talk about the stats around, well, when you talk about the actual day work that you are doing, which is completely against your soul and your heart and your nature, because you're doing something that, okay, I went in to help people. Now I have all these like boxes that I need to fill, and I can only help them with this, which, start crushing your soul in this process. And then on top of that, you receive one person, like, you talked about, insulting you, and then another, day in, day out. I mean, what would you say it is the solution for the actual doctor these days, so we can address the issue that is like 60% of burnout, like the depression? Because, I think what people don't see in this process is that we're going to get less and less people going into med school. We're going to get less and less, people retiring early. I think I read a post about that, and the reality is, who's going to look after, when you need a doctor, like that's, I mean, what would you say, do you see, like, if a doctor is listening to this, what it is the solution for themselves as a person?
I would use my own example. I don't know if it's the best example, but it's the one that I experience. I I truly did my best or try my best to change the system that was around me, and I failed. And I know that I try hard. Believe me, I try hard, and I failed. And I felt very guilty and disappointed, to be sincere, and I started to doubt about myself and how good I was as a leader, and how good my intentions. And then I doubt about, maybe I am doing something wrong, right? Maybe I am just fighting against nothing. But the truth is that, first of all, we need to recognize that the problem exists. We need to acknowledge it. We need to also recognize that we will not change the system, not in a one-to-one situation, that at some point the creation of a union, and I'm not talking the term union with the meaning, the political meaning that it has, but it's the group of doctors, health professionals, leaders, administrators, etc., right, working together for the benefit of the patient and the healthcare system has to be created, right, without egos, and more with collaboration, and a humble approach. But that people are not ready for that yet.
No.
It's like that's not happening. So in the meantime, we have to start taking care of ourselves and our teams.
Yeah.
And yes, we can, as I mentioned, right? I was frustrated. I cannot change the system. But that doesn't mean that you cannot change other things, or that you cannot affect in a positive way your environment, right? And if everyone will be affecting their own environment, even if that means yourself, right? That will have a butterfly effect, because when you are okay, your patients are okay, your students are okay, your staff are okay. And that will bring this, contribution, a positive contribution to your small system. And if you are in a higher position, in a leadership position, where you have more people that is exposed to you, and you can, empower them, and you can, with your example, inspire them to replicate the things that you are doing. So the effect will be even bigger and bigger and bigger. That will change the healthcare system? No, but at least that will improve our own well-being.
Yes.
That will improve the type of healthcare that we are offering. When we will feel less guilty, when we will feel more excited, we will recover the joy of practicing medicine, even under the limitations. We will be able to kind of recharge ourselves.
Yes.
I feel like we lost our purpose. We enter in this hamster wheel of running. We are in survival mode, and we forgot how amazing it is to hug a patient when they finish a treatment, right? As my kid will say, how cool to ring the bell, right? And what does that mean for someone? And if we cannot feel the joy in that, we need vacations. We need to recover that to be good doctors and to be good human beings.
To really connect to your purpose again, like you said, isn't it? Because that, like I said, it doesn't matter how much money you earn. Like if you are not connected to what you're doing every day, it's meaningless. Now you're still feeling, the depression, and it still starts burning you down as well physically, isn't it? As a doctor, I'd love to ask you this question, because of course, you are in that position. I think that I have had clients that were doctors and clients that were nurses, but I must admit that when I have had many conversations with nurses in particular, because of course you are in that position of helping others, I think that people that are in that position as a health professionals, they really struggle to ask for help. And I want you to talk, through this, because of course, the 60%, like the stats that you talk about are quite scary. And how can, like a person, again, who is listening to this, who is a doctor, who is feeling all the signs of burnout, perhaps they've been watching you for a long time, or a nurse, and thinking like, but how can I ask for help, if I am the doctor? Like how can I ask for help if I am the nurse?
I believe that we need to remember that, first of all, we are humans, not doctors. We are humans
Yes.
that decide to go to medical school. I didn't know that, believe me. If you will ask me 2 years ago, this conversation will be very different. And I am the perfect example, not only that I was the typical doctor. I was this super crazy achiever, type A personality. I have 3 specialties here. I have in
I
Peru
know.
another. So a master's and this and that. I mean, I can prove with my CV that I push myself to the limits and more. I was running with my big belly in emergency for 30 hours, being pregnant twice. So I did everything right that a lot of doctors have done. I have been there, I know. And I know how good we feel. And I know the adrenaline. And it really is something
Yes.
amazing. Is that healthy? Is that the only thing that we have in life? No. At some point in medical school, someone put a chip in our brains and they told us that our value depends on how much we do, how much we compromise, how much we sacrifice, and we end believing that.
Yeah.
And I compromise so much. I sacrifice so much, and you don't notice it in yourself. I still today I have problems to
Yeah.
be, to practice self-care, and my husband will tell you that that is true, right? It's like
Yes.
self-care is an issue and boundaries is an issue.
Yeah.
But when you have kids, when you have a family, you can see the real effects of,
Yeah.
of that. So my first suggestion is go back to who you are as a human, right? Remember that you being a doctor is a career. Uh, okay, a doctor, my boy. I had a couple of patients in Peru. I was the doctor to them for 10 years. They
Mhm.
were married and for more than 60 years, and they were around the 90s. They were such a cute couple. Every time that they will come to visit me, they will ask me if I was married or dating or something, and I will be like, no, of course not. Of course not. I mean, I am a doctor, right? I mean, such a question.
I haven't got time for this.
Yeah, that's a silly question, right? And one day, they told me, what will happen when you get sick? Because we are your patients, we love you, we know you for 10 years, but when this finished and counter finished, we go back home with our family. Your students go back home with their families, your
Yeah.
staff back home. Who will take care of you when you will be sick? Who is waiting for you at home? And then they showed me my white coat and they told me, this is what you use, not who you are.
Oh my God, it gives me goosebumps.
I met Alex months later, my husband, and I got married a year later.
That's amazing. It just gives me goosebumps. Oh my God.
And that will
It
be
is so beautiful.
that's the first reminder. We are humans. And the second reminder that I feel like is so important and something that I learned relatively recently is I am now stronger because I am vulnerable.
Yes.
And I know that sounds so weird, right?
Yeah.
But the day that I decided to be myself, to remove the mask, to fake the smile all the time, that day I removed a big backpack that I was bringing to work every day.
Yeah.
And today, what I learned also is that the fact that I am vulnerable in front of others give others permission to be vulnerable and to
Mhm.
ask for help. And this is again this butterfly effect where
Yes.
you as a leader, when you show vulnerability, when you show that you can be human and that is not embarrassing, that doesn't make you weak, that makes you stronger because recognizing that you have a problem takes a lot of effort.
Yes.
You need to first have emotional intelligence and be very self-aware, right? That takes ability.
So
Not
much.
everybody has it.
Yeah.
After that, you
especially
have to
when you're busy, right? You're so busy, you're type A, and you're just like going, rushing, running on that adrenaline. You never stop to become self-aware because you
Yeah.
are just literally out. You're living out of your body. You're living survival mode. You're just not even here. You were just out there.
You are doing, not being, right? And I have been blamed of that so many times, right? I have to do so I don't have to think, right? I don't need to feel. I am doing, I am busy. Oh, I am an expert on that one. But when you are self-aware, right, and you recognize there is a gap or there's a problem, then the next step is to have the courage
Yes.
to accept that you need to say this loud in front of someone else. And that is super difficult.
That's so hard.
I mean, that's your ego, you know,
Yes.
it's painful. It's like,
Yeah.
but at the moment that you cross that line and what you see at the other side is that someone will extend their hands and will support you, you know?
Yeah. The next step will come in front of you, and the next step and the next step. I totally agree. One of the hardest thing it is to become self-aware, and then the second is definitely having the courage to admit and to acknowledge, like, I am in this, crap place because of so many decisions that I've been making for a long time, right? Like, and I think that for me that happened, in the cancer, and it was the same thing, like a type A personality, running like crazy. I've lived in 6 different countries, worked in different places, built different lives. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, well, you've got stage 3 bowel cancer, 38 years old. It was only bad luck. And I'm like, what? Like, how did I even get here?
Yeah.
And having the courage to admit that everything that I had done to that point was not right. It was an enormous amount that was the biggest step. And when I say that, it doesn't come from a place of being a victim.
No.
It comes a place of feeling empowered, right? Look, I did the best I could, but I can't keep going like that. So I want to change.
And there's nothing wrong about changing, right?
Yeah.
And I mentioned that in my book. If you think about change, that's another process, right? And it's a very challenging process and has several steps that need to be completed. Change is not escaping from, change is not quitting, change is not failing. Change is reassessing a situation and comparing that with your reality, with your needs, your current needs, your values, and seeing if what you were planning 3 years ago, 10 years ago, 1 month ago fits today. And many times it doesn't, right? And great that you can recognize if you see how companies, right, do re-engineering, they go through these processes. So if this is great for companies, what most important company than, I mean, we are the best and most complex company altogether, right? We are, why we cannot run ourselves in the same way, right? To stop or pause here and there, reassess what are we doing right, what we are doing not so right, what can we improve, and how we can improve. And when you ask how, can I do it by myself? Do I need someone else to be involved? Or do I need to learn a new skill to go through this? And again, nothing wrong about that. We have been, again, introduced in our mind the idea that changing our mind is failing, that changing our route, changing a career, changing our jobs. No, it's not failing. It's changing. And life is about changing.
That's so important to highlight, because when you talked about, at some point, in med school, we got a chip saying, you've got to achieve. I feel like this is the world we live in. Like, when we're born, we are like that, and I think both of us can speak about, being a woman in South America, which was, I feel that what you've done, it must have been, incredibly hard, and I think you should be so proud of yourself. And you not only did that in South America, but you went to America, study again, and and became this amazing entrepreneur that you are today. Making a difference and doing some incredible things. And I think whilst having a family, like for the whole process for us, like as a woman, for me, what I would add to that about the self-care and starting with ourselves is that for me, there was a big realization when I was diagnosed with cancer and I was in the hospital after my emergency surgery. My kids were going to come and visit me, and I kept saying to myself, don't cry, you have to be strong, you have to be strong, you have to be strong. And my daughter came in, and she was, my son was 6 and she was 4. And she looked at me and she said to me, Mommy, what is this water in your eyes? And I had this realization that my daughter was 4 and she had never seen me cry. And that really hit me so hard that I thought, wow, like I'm growing another mini me, that this is not realistic, right? Like crying is part of life. Feeling is part of life. Feeling sad, feeling happy, feeling frustrated. All of it is part of life. But I'm teaching her that crying is not okay because she's never seen me crying.
And it's so important, right? What you're saying is so important. It's part of our culture, right? This culture that kind of force us to act like normal business, right? Nothing is wrong. And I learned something during the process of writing the book, right? I interviewed like 30 different individuals for my book. So I received free coaching and free psychotherapy during the process. I truly learned a lot. The book is for me so beautiful because it has been in some way an opportunity for me to learn from others, right? And the stories of others are really amazing. But something that I learned is feelings are not good or bad, right? Mm-hmm. And we have been labeling, and that comes from, again, the education that we receive. Feelings are feelings. Whatever you do with the feelings is what makes them good or bad. And now when my boy, the little one, the one that was coming here, he comes and he will tell me, Mommy, and with his face, I'm like, are you having feelings? I'm having feelings, right? And it's so cute, but at the same time, it makes me so proud because to have the courage, right, being 7, and to have the courage to express that has feelings, whatever they are, right, for good or for bad. And we need to let people to express their feelings because at the moment that we know our feelings, we can analyze where they're coming from, how do we improve them, right? And how do we proceed later. If we don't recognize them, we will live in a numb situation. And I read this from in a book from Brené Brown, and I'm sure I am destroying her phrase right now. I apologize, Brené Brown, but she said something like, when you numb yourself from feelings, you cannot select if you numb only the negative feelings or you numb everything. And at some point you discover yourself that you cannot even enjoy the good things in life because you are absolutely numb. And let me tell you, I have been there. It's real. It's absolutely real. It's like you cannot even enjoy something that is so obviously, amazing. You are cold. You are like, if you are in a freezer, you are absolutely cold. And that is so sad. Living like that, to cry, but not to feel numb anymore. Feeling numb was scary. It was like not being alive.
I agree, and I feel that back to the conversation we had. What would health professionals? What's your opinion around what they should do? Is that as a health professional, I can't imagine how challenging it must be to be going through, especially after the COVID. Right? You see. Being in emergency, seeing people dying every day, or, the number of people not being able to stretch yourself to help everybody, and after that, not even seek help to process that in a way, because like I said, we are humans, right? Like And I think that, people, when you think about trauma, when you think about, hard things, you just think about, okay, well, unless, I'm kind of, losing a limb or cancer, or, like somebody that I love, died, or something, or drug addiction, or, I think it's important to recognize how things affect us as individuals differently.
And what you're describing is so important, right? Because we talk about trauma like something that goes directly against us, right? And trauma could be as simple as just like, going through a divorce, or losing something that it was very important for you, maybe not of value, but was the ring of your grandmother,
Yeah.
right? And that is something traumatic for you. So trauma is really relative to the one that is suffering. So we should not be judging the level of suffering, right, of someone else. We need to be very empathetic and respectful with that. That's number one. And number two is that you can suffer trauma because of seeing others suffering. And that is called vicarious trauma or secondary trauma. And that's what happens with doctors and policemen and firefighters and any servant leader, teachers, social workers. I mean, the list is long, right? I mean, and you can imagine that this during COVID was even worse, right? Being exposed to see someone else suffering can affect you tremendously, as much as direct trauma. And sadly, we don't have enough support. We are in a compassion fatigue mode, and you mentioned surviving, right? We are really surviving. We never had the time to recover. We are doing the best that we can. Some people I don't know if they were smarter or luckier, and they were already through coaching, or they decided to go for coaching. I was very lucky, to be sincere. I decided to take a training so I can help my residents. I did as a well-being advocate. What I didn't know at the training forced me to go through coaching. And let me tell you, if I will know, probably I will not take it, because at that time of my life, I don't need coaching, right? I am okay. It took me 4 months of the coaching and the training to find out that I start crying in front of the group, and I'm like crying. I'm like, oh my God, I have burnout too. I remember that my mentor, he was like, oh my gosh, you took 4 months to realize that. Good job. Like 4 months, really? Like we already knew, and you just discovered it. It was very embarrassing. But if we don't receive help, it's very hard to recover. It's very hard to recover.
And I think in this state and age, it needs to be ongoing help, I believe, for health professionals, because, as I mentioned, and I go back to that, there is a lot of patients that are not willing to take the responsibility. And the doctors can do so much. It's a 50-50. It's just like the coaching thing. There's a 50-50 responsibility. Like for me, it was very apparent that just turning up to chemo wasn't going to be my answer. I needed to change a lot of other things alongside, that I did the work on researching and changing my diet and exercising. And, I read like books every day. Like it was like I fully focus on my healing, and I still do. The doctors didn't tell me to change my diet. The doctors didn't tell me to exercise. They didn't tell me to do anything, but I knew that I needed to do more if I wanted to survive. And I think that piece, it must be quite disheartening for health professionals, because you're giving a pill, and you know that person will still be smoking and still drinking, they will still not exercise, they will still be eating, unhealthy diet. And that impacts you at the level of, I'm not changing anything here. My initial purpose was to study med to help people, but I'm not helping them.
Yeah, and it's frustrating and it's rewarding at the same time, right? If you ask me, and I went through a lot, I will not change who I am. I will continue being a doctor. in my heart, I want my kids to be doctors too.
Yeah, I'd probably be a doctor.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, I'm the older one. He's the younger one.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, I think the world needs you. So that's a good thinking.
Go to sleep. I'll go
Okay.
later. Take care,
Yeah.
amor. Bye, Ari. See you soon.
I left.
You left. Yeah, I believe that it's a rewarding career. It's a career that allows us to do many things, right? Because you can do research, you can do education, you can do the clinical aspect. You can be involved in technology, in public health, in advocacy. You can write a book.
What the hell?
Hey,
What the hell?
hell, no.
Oh, what hell? The hell? Oh, I thought you said hell.
No, go to sleep, mister. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah. Being a doctor is easier than being a mom, just to explain this.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there are other careers that allow you to do so many things and to be happy at so many levels. And again, yes, the system doesn't work and there are many challenges, and I am very unhappy with many things that happen. But I am so happy when I help a patient.
Amazing.
It's like I cannot explain the joy. Sometimes I feel guilty of being so happy, but that's something that I will never change in my life. And so that's why my decision was to advocate for what I consider is my perfect system, the perfect system for me to be the doctor that I want to be. And it's important, the same that we want patients to be empowered. I believe that we need to empower healthcare professionals, right? To be able to practice their careers in a way that they feel satisfied, they feel proud of themselves, and where they say, okay, I want to wake up in the morning because I love what I am doing.
Yeah.
And I love what I am doing with all the challenges I do.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about what are you doing now, and how can people reach out to you? What's the kind of work that you are doing?
So besides trying to be a good mom and control certain situations, and I apologize again, but I'm sure some people is laughing about this, and they will continue laughing in the future. I created my own clinic, my private concierge clinic. It's a virtual clinic, and this allows me to manage my patients on my own times. I can spend my 60 minutes of, and if I need more, I need more, and I will do it without any pressure. I can prescribe what I want. I can order the test that I want. And I am merging this traditional practice of medicine with something that is a little more modern and holistic. I'm working with a wonderful nutritionist that support the plans, the nutritional plans for my patients. I'm working with a lady that is amazing. It's actually a former Buddhist nun, and she is helping me with mindfulness and meditation. I believe, and you mentioned the chemo or the pills are not enough. You need to improve your mental health. You need to improve the levels of stress to allow your body to respond better. And I'm working with another beautiful lady that is a health coach, and she's specialized in functional medicine. And what I am getting from that is, I don't think that we were supposed to stop where we stop in medicine. All these things that now are functional medicine and that look like are voodoo or whatever really are sustained in many cases, in a lot of cases, by science. And it's a new way to practice medicine that could be added. I don't think that we need to ignore it. We need to embrace it, we need to learn it, and we need to apply it. So DNA testing, we didn't have the technology before. We have it now. Why not to use it? Precision medicine, we were not able to create medications specific for someone.
Yeah.
Now we can create multivitamins specifically for you. We can create probiotics specifically for you. So why we will give you all the chemicals of the, of the regular, I don't know, store, when we can create something that is what you need, that is based on your blueprint, right, and your characteristics. And remote monitoring, sending the appropriate devices to patients. You can monitor vitals, right, the
Yes.
heart rate, the blood pressure. You can monitor how many steps they walk, how many hours they sleep, the fat percentage, the change of the water in the body. There are so many things that you can do remotely. We are missing the opportunity to engage with those patients that are not necessarily the ones that want to come back again and again to the clinic, right?
Yes.
That they want to, and you can really capture a new group of patients, right? A modern group of patients, a busy group of patients that need to be taken care of, but based on their needs, based on the reality, and based on the schedule. So I'm doing that, and to be sincere, I'm personally very amazed, because I feel that my patients are satisfied, and I feel so satisfied, so happy. I was afraid of not having the insurance. And it's still challenging. Let me tell you, it's not easy to work without insurance. Patients is still having their minds, and I understand that insurance should be part of the way to see doctors. But if the insurance is not supporting your needs, and if insurance is not allowing you to receive the appropriate treatment in a timely manner, I believe that it's not a bad idea to, at least open the eyes to these other opportunities to see a concierge doctor.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like I said, health is not one size fits all, right? Like you're really working with the individual, with their needs, which is really so, and just tackling from different angles, the different things that you can the different puzzle together. And yeah, I mean, when it comes to health, I think, people spend so much money on other things, handbags and clothes and, and, latest mobile phones and people don't think twice about that. But as soon as it comes to health, they're like, well, but it's like, well, that is the only thing you have. Like when you don't have that, what do you have? And I know that, and I can say that 100% sure from my own experience. When you were sick, you're not going to think about, I want a new handbag, I want a new car, I want a new house. All you want is to get well. And I think people really, should have that in mind and take action daily with that in mind. We can start changing the future of health of the world, right? Because it's not going into the direction that we want to see at the moment.
And at some point, is also kind of it's an expression of discontent, right? It is if patients will start looking for what is appropriate for them and not to tolerate less than what they deserve.
Yeah.
Right? If they will start to advocate for themselves and say, no, 15 minutes, no. I mean, I am paying, right? I mean, this is not free. You are not giving me charity. I am paying to be seen. I deserve to express my concerns, to ask questions, and to have a complete physical exam. That's for what I am paying, right? Yes. So if that will start happening, and some of the patients that have the opportunity to pay out of pocket, right, and go to concierge doctors, will start doing so, the system will have probably not many options. They will have to improve what they are doing, or they will start covering for other things that right now are not being covered,
Covered.
right?
Yes.
Because the client, right, and the client is always right, and the client is actually the patient, right?
Yeah.
The consumer will be pushing for their rights.
And I think there is many. Yeah, I think mental health is a typical example, isn't it? What we've been doing is just not working, right? Like just going to the psychiatrist, getting meds, and then seeing a psychologist alone. You know, it's just not working because the mental health is just gone insane all over the world. You know, here in Australia is a big issue, in America is a big issue. You know, the anxiety, depression, the kids getting diagnosed with all sorts of different things at an earlier age. The system is failing big time on that, and
to give
what it is
numbers,
is not enough.
yes, and I just want to, for those that have no idea about numbers, I want to show the magnitude of this. In the United States, 49,000 individuals died by suicide this last year. 49,000.
God, that's crazy.
And the years before, we have been in the 46,000. So now we are even worse. And that is impressive. I was looking, and I hope I am not wrong right now, but I was looking, Monaco, right? Complete country, small but complete country. They have 37,000 individuals. So they have in the complete country less people than the one that died by suicide in 1 year in this country. That just to give, sometimes numbers show you the magnitude, right? And that's scary. 1 in 5 individuals in the US have a mental health condition. 1 in 5.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
Yeah.
So
given that it's a country that you've got, it's considered a first world country. As we know that we're coming from South America. I mean, like they've got a stable government. Like all of those things. Like that. People can't really understand unless they come from a different country, the level of good things that they still have going for them, but it's still, it's failing big time.
It's failing.
Yeah.
It's failing because the priorities have been changed in many cases, because the integrity of families has been broken, because the level of pressure that kids receive. 500 kids between 6 and 9, the ages of my kids, die by suicide every year in the country. 500. I mean, we are talking about terrifying numbers. And when people ask me why you do what you do, I mean, my best way to explain why I do is I give the numbers. I could be one of the 400 doctors that died. That's what, I belong to that group. My kids belong to the other group, the 500 kids. So how I will ignore, how I will, negligent. I believe that we need to talk about these things, and we need to create awareness, and we need to tell parents, take care of your kids, ask them how are they doing, make sure that they are okay, make sure that they are not being bullied, talk about feelings, right, and be available and hug them, and do the same with your partner, right? And do the same with the people in your office. These hellos, how are you doing? And you're running in the hallway. They are not real. So really ask people, because the face of depression, the face of someone that will maybe die by suicide in the next few minutes, is your face is my face. It's the face of any of us. Right? They don't look different. They don't necessarily act different. They don't necessarily are poor, or they don't have a mental illness, or they are, or they don't have tattoos, or they don't. No.
There's no signs sometimes, right? There's zero signs whatsoever. Yeah, I know.
It's a regular person, right? With a regular life, with a regular family that just didn't receive the support
that they needed, as an individual. And I think, like back to the whole, like, making a difference on yourself first, self-care, the changing yourself. And I talk about this on my book as well. It's just that, and you mentioned several times, is once you are living from a place of, you're loving and caring from yourself first, there's the butterfly effect, the compounding effect. You have a lot more to give, right? You have a lot more because you have looked after yourself. But once you're in that like type A personality, running around like crazy and going from one thing to another, adrenaline rush, and pretending and numbing, your feelings and emotions, you're basically running at a very low battery without realizing.
Yeah.
Energetically and emotionally, and you have very little to give to people around you. And I've noticed that the changes I've made, it rubbed it off on my husband and it rubbed it off on my kids. And I see my clients, the same thing, like my husband, wants to have the same breakfast. Oh, he's starting to exercise. Oh, my kids are interested to know what I'm eating. Or, do you know what I mean? And as if we all did that as individuals, we started creating a different ripple effect around the world as well, right?
And doesn't have to be perfect, right? And I am very transparent in my book, and I am very transparent in any of my communications. I am not perfect. I will never be. That's not the plan, right? Humans, we are not supposed to be perfect. But beyond that, it's like I still have good days and I have very miserable days too,
Yes.
right? And that's okay. It's okay not to be okay. What is not okay is not to ask for help when you need. What is not okay is not to recognize your gaps. What is not okay is to assume that this survival mode is enough for you or for those that are around you. So if you are able to recognize those things and push yourself with the help of others, to be in a better level tomorrow and a little better the next day. And maybe you will go down again here and there, but then you recover, right? If we can keep going without fear of failing, without feeling embarrassed, without feeling guilty, we will. There's a term that we didn't mention here, and I believe that is so important. It's such a beautiful term. It's post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth, in some ways, the opposite to post-traumatic stress, right?
Yeah.
And comes from positive psychology, something that the positive psychology developed. And when you think about someone going through trauma, and we talk about trauma, right? Trauma or grief, it's normal that we will be in our baseline and suddenly we will go down, right? And go through all our trauma. And if you don't go through the trauma, be worried, right? It's normal to go through it. But in many cases, we will stay down, and that's the problem, right? That's when you develop depression, PTSD, etc. Sometimes you will go and bounce back, right? And that is what is resilience. You will go back to your baseline, to your level, right? But post-traumatic growth means that you will learn from where you were down, you will acquire this new type of skills, and you will grow beyond your baseline, and you will become a better version of yourself. And what is beautiful about this better version of yourself is the majority of these individuals, now they become mentors and they become role models and advocates, right? And I bring this to the table because for those that are going through difficult situations, we can see this as we are victims, right? Or we can see this as, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I do with this? And I don't want to be a victim. I refuse to be a victim. I even when I have the worst days, and I have them, I cannot be a victim. How do I transform even my deepest, suffering in something that will be meaningful, right? That is aligned to my purpose. And I feel that when going back to purpose, right? When we find our purpose, is when we find a reason to keep going and to keep learning and to keep growing.
I love that, because I think that, when you were down, you never think, you feel like, oh my God, how do I come out of this? And like I said, just little by little, if you're just aiming to be that 1% better, that little bit better each day, even sometimes you feel like one step forward and two back. but just with that intention to getting better, there is so much beauty that can come out of that place of the traumatic situation, right? But Miriam, we could speak forever, and I just love it so much. All your sharing, I love your rawness and honesty as well. I think that many doctors and nurses and health professionals should listen to this interview, and I hope you can inspire, and I'm sure you will, many people, but also we'll keep doing it. I will definitely add your details below in case patients also want to reach out to your clinic, because I think that the work that you're doing is very, very important, and it's very it's crucial for some people, because they are looking for that and they don't know where to find sometimes. And this is why I love those conversations, because we can open new possibilities for people. There are different possibilities out there for yourself, and I think that's the key thing, really.
And I want to say thank you so much, and to remind you, in case you don't remember, that you are the result of post-traumatic growth. You are the beautiful example of someone that went through trauma and decided not to be a victim, but to become a role model for your kids, for others, right? For myself. And that now you are contributing to create a better world, to help others. And always keep that in your mind, because that's something that you need to be really proud of. That takes a lot of strength. And I just believe that you are saying so many good things about others, but I want you to receive what you deserve. You need to hear beautiful things about you, because you deserve it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.